Let's keep it simple. Look, there's client data out there, so often our clients, our agency's clients, will collect data on their customers, and they'll have collected it for a certain series of tasks, and those won't necessarily match up with some of the things that you might want to do with that data from a marketing perspective. So you then have to work on how you bring that data into a form, or create that data into a form that allows it to be brought together with data that we create through our activities in the media space. So it's extremely worthwhile, because ultimately what you're then doing is starting to match up what happens from a media perspective and what people interact with those brands in that space, with actions that those consumers carry out.
It's a brilliant observation, because first-party data is where most people spend their time today, and it's obviously extremely valuable. Retargeting is obviously a very sensible exercise to use that data. But I saw a piece recently where somebody had said data is like oil. It's like the oil of the ecosystem, which is a fairly sort of strange metaphor to use for data, because oil, I'm stealing this by the way from a blog our CEO wrote, oil is of course perishable. The idea being you put it in, you use it up, and then it's gone. Whereas of course with first-party data, the one that gets used by far the most, and therefore needs to be the one treated the most delicately, but yet it's used very aggressively, is the one that doesn't expire. You know, that is the identity of a user, and in the main, it's an identity of a customer that particular company has. Whereas the behavioural data, which is the one that is perishable, because especially in the UK, if I did something yesterday, it doesn't mean I still want to do it. You know, I was looking at products to buy, I may have changed my mind today. So the data I created this morning is more valuable, you could argue, than the data I created yesterday. And people need to continue to collect that and assess that. That is perishable. Once you use that, it's probably no longer relevant.
In terms of the customer journey, I think customer journeys are really important, not just in a digital environment, but for me, the customer journey is more around an omni-channel approach, to actually treat the customer in the same way, whatever channel they're actually on. So not specifically around the source of the data, but actually all the data that we have on how the customer's actually being treated in direct mail or email or digital or video, or even on TV advertising. So for me, customer journey is all about actually treating the customer wherever they appear on any channel in the same way. So if there's a specific campaign or message that you want to get out to that customer, it's fluid in all the various channels. So that, I think, for me as an advertiser, is the biggest thing around customer journeys.
Yeah. I think my advice would be to actually think beyond just consumer data. You know, we've talked a lot about consumer data on the panel today, and you know, my advice, my evangelism, if you like, within Xaxis is we need to think much more broadly about the data access that we have within our organisation, all the various touch points that we have, not just with consumers, but with our publisher partners and with clients, because we're we're an inflection point, really, not just in our industry, but in society, where machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities are going to become viable in a very credible way, probably in the next 2-3 years. You're already seeing that with DeepMind, I think lowering Google's cooling bill by 40% in its data centers. So we're seeing real world applications of machine learning and sort of smart algorithms now. So I think businesses need to be in a position as quickly as possible to take advantage of those capabilities, and that means thinking as holistically as possible about data and all this.
Okay. We haven't really in this panel touched much on test and learn and how we actually evaluate the campaigns that as a result of using data. A methodology that I recommend is control versus targeted methodology. So actually not just looking at the operational metrics of a campaign that we might be running online, for example. I mean, it's great when we get stats around engagement rates, video through rates, impressions, clicks on impressions, etc. But the key thing is, and the key question is what did it actually drive for the business? How does that link into the business performance metrics? So we need all the operational metrics as well, but an added bolt-on is actually linking that to how it's performed for the actual business. And the methodology around that is having control versus treatment. So look at your business metrics, have holdout groups, have treatment groups, and actually measure the performance of each and compare them.